So, welcome to Beauty of Colors podcast, Kevin. It's great to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Very welcome. So, Kevin, who are you and what are you?
Oh, that's how much time you got? Yeah, that's a kind of a theme in my memoir in my life is who are you versus what are you? Who am I is more the intangibles. I'm hardworking, I'm honest, I'm flawed, I have high integrity, I'm high character, all those intangible internal traits are more who I am. What I had been was a bully kid born with a birth defect and speech impediment, college and pro athlete, an inmate. I got arrested and spent some jail time, wrongfully arrested. I was a Hollywood Stuntman for 17 years. I was a teacher in Baltimore City. I'm now a husband and a father and a retired Hollywood Stuntman and a business owner and an author and a speaker. So there's a lot of what am I, but I don't take much stock in what I am. I take more stock in who I am.
Sounds great. Excellent, Kevin. So in your book, you said that falling down to find myself, which is the name of your book, it's not about the destination. It's about the journey. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that, Kevin?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a little cliche-ish, but the longer you live, the more you realize how true it is. The journey is where we live the life. The destination is always going to be death. So you better be about the journey because we're all going to the same place at the end of the day. So you break that down. Microcosm of that is everyday life and what you're doing today and what you're going to do tomorrow. You got to have goals and a plan for the future. The journey is always all about put yourself on a positive path of that journey. So if you have a positive goal and a positive outlook and positive community, then all your journeys will be in a positive light. And that's going to be way more fun than the destination because when you get to the destination, whether it's Hollywood Stuntman, author, father, you're going to be another destination. You don't just stop. The road doesn't end. You got to keep going. So 99% of the time you're on the journey and 1% of the time you reach the destination only to find another destination down the road. So it must continually be about the journey.
So what do you mean, Kevin, when you say that confidence with humility is just ego? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, confidence without humility is ego. Mm-hmm. So it's very good. You want to be a confident person, mm-hmm. but the more confident you are, could be falsely. You could think you're the best football player in the world, and that ego will blind you to the fact that you're not. And you're not going to play in the NFL, or you're not, or it could be anywhere. It could be the best engineer or best writer. Your ego, your false confidence will create ego, or your ego will create false confidence. So having that combination of being humble and confident is kind of what your journey is all about. My journey is all about. It's always continually to be, I'm confident in this area, but how do I stay humble in it? And the best way to stay humble is keep doing things hard, keep challenging yourself, keep putting yourself in a position where you're going to fail. Because if you don't, you're not. Humility will be hard to find. So that combination of humility and confidence is kind of a goal to reach, I think, throughout your various journeys in life.
Okay. So your book, Kevin, is called Falling Down to Find Myself. Is that a memoir or is it just nonfiction? What exactly is the book? And could you give us a little rundown on kind of a few things that you do have in the book to encourage others and to have them going along their journey in life?
Yeah, so I'm calling it a philosophical memoir. So it's a story of my life up until this point, obviously. And I weave in some philosophical themes like who versus what, and I tie that back into my story in another philosophical old paradox called the ship of Theseus, which is you take a while to talk about, but it helps make the who versus what more tangible in a way. Mm-hmm. So it's going through my life, being born with a birth defect, having surgeries after surgery, learning how to talk all over again, getting bullied, becoming an athlete, building that humble confidence, all of that, all the way through being arrested, my father passed away, all these kind of different things at the end of the day built my character and built my who and made me focus on my community and my friends and my goals and then all that stuff. And then it doesn't end, but a cool part of it is 18 years I spent in Hollywood doing falling out of buildings, doing fight scenes and driving cars with people like Adam Sandler and Angelina Jolie and Tom Holland and Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. I ended up doing, I think, 9 Marvel movies at the end of my career. So I was on a pretty good Marvel run there.
Nice.
Did Black Panther and Ant-Man and Ant-Man and the Wasp. And so there's a lot of nuggets of those movie, little fun stories of those movies where in a business like that, you're set up to fail all the time. So the humility is not hard to find. We're going to do this shot tomorrow. Great, I'm ready. Oh, we changed our mind. We're doing something else. Figure it out. Oh no! So it was a really fun career. But I have a family now. I have 3 daughters. I have a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 2-year-old. So humility is finding me there every day too. So um, so the book is about all of those kind of trials and tribulations I had in my life in a fun, entertaining way, calling back on the who versus what mentality that strengthened me to where even when I was being bullied and beat up in middle school, I never internalized it. It was never who I was. It was just something, it was a what that I was in that time being. So even negative things, don't internalize and make it your identity. And positive things, like being a Hollywood stuntman, working with Tom Holland and some of the biggest movies in the world. That wasn't who I was either. That was just what I did. I was able to leave that behind just as easily as I was able to leave the mentality of being bullied and picked on behind. So that theme runs through all my stories. And getting a phone call. Sorry,
That's
but private in that. So the book is fun stories about my life in Hollywood and growing up, and I weave those philosophical themes in there to help let people know that the inside journey and work is more important than the exterior work, and I'm putting value on exterior things. So kind of, I say in there, I said a bunch. If you want a new idea, read the old book. These aren't new ideas, but I just kind of wrapped them in a new little paper and made it fun with some Hollywood stories involved in it.
What challenges did you face working in Hollywood and being a stuntman? What kind of challenges did you face?
Well, the obvious physical challenges. You're always pushing yourself. Well, in everything in life, but you want to have as many tools in your toolbox as possible, because in the stunt world, it's all word of mouth. There's no agents, no managers, no auditions. It's all who you know, the reputation you build. You put a good foot forward. You stay humble. You don't say you can do things you can't, because you're going to show up and have to do it, and they're going to find out you can't do it pretty quick. So putting yourself, in a good position to succeed. And as you're doing that, I was a really good football player, baseball player, just an all-around kind of athletic guy. I played a sport called slam ball, like full contact basketball and trampolines. It was on TV for a couple of years. It was crazy. So I had those kind of tools, but I didn't know how to drive a car really well, do martial arts really well, or do high falls, or so then you train and learn and train and learn. So you build that toolbox up. So when someone calls, hey, can you do a martial art fight scene? Yep, I sure can, because I've been practicing. I built that tool in that toolbox. So all those physical challenges are always there. And then the mental and emotional toll of, if you don't work, you don't get paid. So there's a lot of broke times the first 4 or 5 years of you building up that reputation to get enough movie work. So jobs you thought you should have made, you're the best guy for the job. I didn't get it. Some other guy get it. He was a friend of somebody else, or for whatever reason, I didn't market myself well enough, because I had to do all my own headshots and my resume, and you're your own business and you're the sales executive, you're the product, you're everything. So if it doesn't work out, you know where to look but to yourself. So physically I had a lot of gifts, but I wasn't really great at marketing myself and doing all that. So I learned that whole game of it. So there's a lot of rejection. You don't get a lot of jobs right away, which at the end of the day is good, because then when you do, then you're established and you've proven yourself. And earlier in my days when I wasn't getting work, I'm like, why'd this guy get hired? Oh, he's been doing it for 10 years. He knew that guy from 10 years ago. He's built a relationship with him. That guy trusts that guy. Even though I may be better, the boss doesn't know that. The boss knows this guy for 10 years. He's going with that guy. That's fair. So learning all that was a lot of challenging, and but it was fun. It was a fun ride.
So you've built a pretty good resume so far.
I did. It was.
So what are the pros and cons of a career in being a stunt man? What are the pros and cons of that?
The obvious cons are the physical, your body's getting beat up. But there's avenues behind the camera. My last 5 or 6 years, I was behind the camera doing the stunt rigging, the fight choreography, training the actors, working on the budgets, hiring the stunt people. So you can get around your body getting beat up, but then your phone never stops ringing and you're working 100 hours a week. So there's pros and cons to that as well. But the pros are just a fun environment. You make good money. You're creative and physical. So all those outlets, you're kind of hitting all of that. You have a good locker room, good community of guys that kind of build each other up. You never get too bored, because always one movie's going to end in 5 or 6 months. You're going to have to find another job, and it'll be some completely different movie. Maybe you go from Avatar to, I don't know, some car driving movie, or a motion capture video game, or a commercial, or So I really like those. A lot of the pros for me, you never got old. There's always something new. The cons were the hours. I was in London and Prague on Spider-Man Far From Home for 4 months. I came home for one weekend for my daughter's birthday and flew right back on Sunday night. And
Mhm.
they own you. You're gone for months and months at a time. Even when I was home, I did Black Panther. I was living in Atlanta,
Oh,
and it was about an hour and a half commute each way to the set. Because they were filming in north of Atlanta. I was living in the south of Atlanta. If you've
mhm.
been to Atlanta, traffic is not good in Atlanta.
No.
So I would have to be on set at 5 in the morning. I would, be cut at 7, 8 at night, times 3 hours of commute every day. You're working 80, 90 hours, 100 hours a week. And and the schedule changes. Hey, we're working Monday through Friday, sun up to sundown because we're using the sun and we can only shoot those hours. You knew if you were shooting outside, there was definitely a hard stop because the sun was going to go down. You
Wow.
go into a studio, the sun never goes down. They can just keep going and going and going from day shoot to night shoot. You think Wednesday morning you're working at 5 a.m. You get a call Tuesday. Hey, guess what? You're working 5 p.m. Wednesday nights. It's a whole night shoot, 5 p.m. to 5 a.m. And it just changes on a dime. And you got to be on that ride, willing to do that, which was fun and a good young man's game. But with a family and
Mhm.
everything, I had a good run, 17, almost 18 years. And
Wow.
those are the biggest con was that time. So I walked away and I opened a business and wrote a
Mhm.
book. I'm doing a speaking engagement, so I can own my own time. Now I don't make much money
Mhm.
compared to the movies, but I own my time right now. So
Sounds good, Kevin. So how did all those ups and downs affect your mental health? Because that's a lot of stuff you've been doing and you've been doing for 18 years. So how did that affect your mental health?
I think I had a good base. Like honestly, being a bully kid, being an athlete, and making a team, not making a team, winning a game, losing a game.
Mhm.
I mean, you go through those ups and downs. Even take the bully and all the surgeries and speech therapy and all that stuff away. Just life kind of is ups and downs. And by the time you become an adult, you should be able to deal with it. It doesn't make it easier, but if you've done the work during the previous ups and downs, it'll make it easier the future ups and downs. So like all the stuff that happened when I was younger, I really internalized, and the physical outlet of football was good for me. I used to write, and I
Mhm.
had good friends, and um, it was really rough. Like, writing the book, looking back on it, I'm like, oh man, it was a pretty crappy time in my life, but I remember being pretty happy. So I never internalized it. I never really made it my identity of being the bully kid.
Mhm.
So the ups and downs don't put too much value in the ups or the downs. Stay kind of stoic, as I like to say. It's hard to do. We want to celebrate your wins, have some
Mhm.
pride in the job well done, but realize that that's another journey starting. So that win's over. You got to start another game tomorrow. So I think a lot of my life circumstances prepared me well for life and career in Hollywood with all those other ups and downs. So.
You have a very positive attitude. It doesn't matter, what goes down in life. You just pick up and you brush yourself off and you just move on.
Yeah, I mean, easier said than done, but that's the goal, right? It's gonna, I
Yeah.
mean,
So what advice do you have for people seeking mental fortitude?
mental fortitude. If you put value on external things will control you, and your mental fortitude won't be yours. It'll be somebody else's. Like my time wasn't mine in Hollywood. Now my time is mine. Your mental fortitude has to start within. Like be confident in who you are, your character, your honesty, your work ethic, your friendships, how all that stuff. Build that up, and the other stuff is easy to come and go. All the external things are easier to shake off if you built the foundation of your internal self, and which is hard to do as well. I think people say that a lot, and I like to add to that. A good way to do that is to do something hard. Challenge yourself, even if it's wake up early in the morning, take a cold shower, walk a
Mhm.
mile, do a push up, whatever is
Mhm.
going to be hard for you. Just do it. Even if you fail at it, you'll still have a little sense of pride. You'll be, oh man, I got that. Okay, I wasn't that hard. I did this, or I can do that. Even if it's not a 1-to-1 ratio,
Mhm.
you can't do 5 push-ups. Guess what? End of the week, you can do 10. That feels good. Simple things like that builds that internal strength just a little bit every day, and you'll wake up, 10 years down the road, and look back like I did. Man, that seemed pretty miserable. I was kind of happy during that. How does that happen? Just because you challenge yourself that little bit every day. So I think that really is something people miss. It's easy to say, build yourself up from the inside, be more confident in who you are than what you are and all that. The how. And the how for me, one way to do it is to do something hard, put yourself in a position to fail
Mhm.
and then fail again and then realize, oh, I wasn't that bad, figure it out.
It's tough. It's easy to say when you're not used to it, because most people are just comfortable in their little bubble. And to try something new, it's kind of like, the end of the world to them. So it's kind of like for you to say that, to try something new, that's something really interesting. You never know, you might love it.
You might love it, yeah. You might hate it, but at least you did something, and you got a little bit of pride in you. And I think good pros and cons. The world is really easy right now. Like everyone's got not everyone, but we live in a great country where you have air conditioning and heat, and
Mhm.
you have an iPhone, and you don't have to dig a ditch to feed your family or kill a bear to feed your family. Like
That's true.
it's pretty easy to be complacently easy and not challenge yourself. You can have a really cush job, make
Mhm.
little decent enough money to have air conditioning and a smartphone in the car and never challenge yourself and never put yourself out there. And that will just over time just chip away at your self-confidence. And that probably creates a lot more mental problems. And it just, at the end of the day, it creates just weaker individuals who haven't been challenged. And we're all weak at some point. I'm weak in a lot of things, but if you can't do a push-up, you're weak until you can do push-ups and get strong. That's right. If you're weak, you can become strong. Step one is realize I'm pretty weak at that. Let's figure it out.
Mhm.
But then the world is so easy now. It's very easy to just not do that.
Mhm.
We didn't have an option not to do that 100 years ago, 200 years ago, because it's like if you wanted heat in your house, you better chop some firewood.
Oh yeah.
That's hard. You know?
That's harder than today.
Yeah. Now you flip a switch and I got heat. Cool. Why am I so miserable? Because you haven't challenged. You haven't put yourself out there. You haven't challenged yourself. You haven't grown as a human yet. So a little tangent there, but I'm sorry.
No, 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 that's fine. So what was one of your favorite moments on set while working as a stuntman?
My first movie was a movie called The Longest Yard with Adam Sandler, Burt Reynolds, Terry Crews, Nelly, Michael Irvin. I
Mhm.
mean, the list goes on and on. Very lucky that was my first movie. I went to a tryout. I made it. That whole story's in my book of how
Mhm.
I wasn't really good enough to make it. I was kind of close, but these guys were just way better than me in football. But I made it. Well, how did I make it? A woman who I had known a couple of years earlier involved in the hiring process,
Mhm.
and she was going to bat for me and say, "Hey, you want this guy? This guy's going to be there on time. He's going to know his role. He's going to be in the right spot at the right time. Be a good teammate guy." And I made it because of my who, quite literally, over my what, my ability. That jump started my whole Hollywood career. I owe a lot to that woman. But in that movie, everyone was fun. We're all ex athletes having a good time, and
Mhm.
I did a stunt that I wasn't supposed to do, uh, and I thought I got fired for it. And we're doing the scene, and I was an inmate on Adam Sandler's team.
Mhm.
Uh, so the first time we get out of our jail cell to practice football, um, we Adam Sandler goes under center. They call hike. The ball goes behind him. He
Mhm.
turns around to get the ball. Turns back around. Everyone's fighting. Everyone's just fighting each other because we're all just inmates in jail, right?
Mhm.
I didn't really want to fight, so the boss at the time said, "Hey, you go over there and run over these guys and fight these guys." I'm like, okay. They call action. I run over to these guys. Again, we're all friends at this point. We all went to tryout together. We're all ex-athletes. The last second, I just drop kicked both of them, and they're like, "Oh!" They fall down. They're on the ground. And they call cut, cut, cut. Adam Sandler and all the guys go back into the tent in the video village and look at the replay of what worked or didn't work, what you want to focus on, and the whole tank goes, "Oh, who drop kicked somebody?" I was like, "Oh, I'm fired. I should have done that." Trying to hide, but I mean, it's literally on film. They know who did it. So yeah, that was me. I'm sorry. I thought it'd be funny. I got a little carried away. I'll never do it again. That
Mhm.
was awesome. Do it again. and then I did it again, another part in the movie, and it made the trailer of the movie. It was my first big stunt. It was and on the big screen. It was in the trailer, so it was that was a really fun, neat story there.
Sounds good. Wow. So what is your message for readers who would love to get a copy of your book, Falling Down to Find Myself? Where can they get a copy of that?
You can get it on Amazon, anywhere books are sold. How my publisher says it. I have a website, kevincast.com, KEVINCASS.com. You can get it on my website. Amazon, you can Google Falling Down to Find Myself, or or Google Kevin Cassidy author, or Kevin Cassidy slam ball or stunts, or all this crazy stuff will pop up. You can go down the Kevin Cassidy rabbit hole. Some of my neighbors have done recently. But yeah, the Amazon or my website are probably the best 2 places to go.
You know, you said something about Adam Sandler. You kind of look like him a little bit. I was
Well,
just about to say that.
I'll take that as a compliment. He's a good-looking guy.
So, is there any last words that you would like to say to the listeners?
Go do something hard. Put yourself out there to fail, and just find how much that'll make you grow, and you'll never regret it. You never regret doing something hard.
Sounds good. So, thank you, Kevin, for being on Beauty of Colors podcast.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.